I feel like this is gonna be something like I actually did a podcast on this yesterday and it's gonna publish on it should publish on Monday, but this is just such a hot thing because I just hate it for people when they're talking about this is how so and so is pricing their stuff and I'm like, you are you. They are not you. Like just like your DNA of your body, nobody else is ever gonna have it. Nobody else has it now. Your business is the same exact way. And so I want to talk about pricing, and pricing is such it's not just like a number either. Like pricing is such a reflection of things, right? It's like if you go to Walmart, everything ends in seven. So when you go out and you see prices of things like that, like a lot of times, and there may be other stores like I feel like every city now has Walmart. It's not like some areas where like Kroger is the thing and then Publix and then Food Line. Like every place has a Walmart. So but so like when you go to Walmart, like what the pricing looks like. And when you see that out in the world, like it's such a part of their brand that when you see pricing that ends in a seven, like you probably think of Walmart. I know that I do, for instance. And so when you look at pricing that is like ending in 99 or pricing that ends in a five, or if it ends in whole numbers, like you may not realize it, but that gives you insight into what type of business that you're buying from. And so, and there's so much into pricing psychology. Like that's something that I would do want to study a lot more about. I'm not going to go down the road with that today, but pricing just speaks volumes to so many things. And the thing that we had this conversation, or Courtney did rather, with some clients earlier this week. And what was really interesting is that when we look at pricing, there's like a tactical part of it where we want to make sure that we know what our costs are to deliver the experience that we want to provide to our clients. And then there is the brand awareness component, or like the more intangible component of pricing, where it's like, okay, we know the baseline cost that it takes for us to be able to deliver this experience. And then there's a part of that pricing where it's like, once you know what that floor is, then you can make your pricing whatever you want. You just don't want to make it too low that you can never come up for air. And that's one of the things we see with so many people is like, one of the things like I try to drill into people's brain, and this is just what comes up, is that price yourself based on where you want to take people and where you want to go, not based on where you are, because that's going to keep you where you are. And so you've got to be able to price yourself with a combination of pricing and the proper volume that's going to allow you to provide the experience that you want to people, that you can continue to grow and reinvest in your business and pay yourself more and be able to experience more of the fruits of what you're building. And so one of the interesting things is that when Courtney was meeting with these clients, it was really eye-opening because they went through and they did their homework first and foremost. Like we gave them clarity, like, and it was really interesting because we knew when we brought this client on, just by doing like a preliminary review of it, I'm like, and we both knew the pricing was something that has to be fixed. And that's a lot of newer businesses. Now, a lot of businesses just in general really run into this, but the problem is that they were able to pick up so much volume just over a period of time, if they're a bigger business or more established, that they may not necessarily realize that their pricing is holding them down. But we see this a lot of times with newer businesses because they just don't know. And a lot of times, like you start a business and you were just in the grind and the hustle mode and you are getting stuff done, but you're not taking time to sit down and really assess like what do my numbers actually look like? And then how do I actually need to price this? And the reason that this is so important is because when you start a business, your cost structures are going to be so different. And if you're comparing yourself to somebody else down the road, that if you are, for instance, here's an example, if you're a new business that is starting out and you price your services not being clear on your brand, but you're trying to compete for price. And so if you price your services like somebody down the road that has a more established business that has a higher volume of clientele, and those types of people stay with them, and you try to price your business like theirs and your cost structure is completely different, you don't have an established business yet, you don't have an established clientele or customer base, that is just a race to the bottom and you will go out of business. And so that's where people end up getting into this trap of having to take out debt to fund just the maintenance of their business rather than expansion. And so being clear, if when you're taking out debt, like, why am I taking this out? Like, am I just trying to like stay afloat, or is this intentionally helping us to expand and grow the business? Because debt can have both purposes. Now, neither one is necessarily bad, but not having a strategy is. But that's a conversation for another day as far as debt is concerned. But when it comes to pricing, it's just, you can't just go into this blindly and just look at what someone else is doing and assume that that's going to work for you. The other side of that is you have no idea what somebody's business, like what's going on in the background. You don't have a clue. That might be working for them right now, but you have no idea if they're going to have to shut their doors next month or next year. And so just doing that with the ignorance of not knowing, like, what cost are you going to have as a business owner that is going to afford you the opportunity to provide the service, the products, the experience to people that you truly want to. And you got to be really clear on this as well, as far as what kind of people do you want to serve? Because it is absolutely okay to be the person that is known for competing on price. And it's like, I thought about this yesterday. And how does it go? It's like cheap, fast. What is it? Cheap, fast, and good, I think. You can have two, but you can't have all three. Like, you're not going to have all three ever. And so if you want to be able to provide something that is competitive on price, because you want to have affordability baked into what you offer, then you're not going to be able to offer a high quality, but it will probably be fast and cheap. Or maybe it is high quality and it is cheaper, but the time to fulfill takes a longer time. And so you need to be aware of these things when you're pricing out your services, because it's easy to be able to look at the tangible stuff, the actual cost of your products, the cost of your labor, the overhead cost of insurance and rent, and all of these things. But that is so basic. And we are building empires here. We are wanting to max out our profitability. And one of the ways that you achieve exceptional profitability is by not fading into the crowd of average. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're pricing yourself just like everybody else is. And so you want to know what those things are, but it's like, think about I want you to think about some companies that you don't even think about the price of it. Like, you're going to buy from them no matter what. Or if you go to the grocery store, it doesn't matter if it's on sale, you're going to buy this thing because it relates to a value that you have versus being price conscious about it. Whereas when you run up against the wall and maybe you have to purchase something that's really a necessity, but it's not a desire, then you're going to look for the cheapest option in some cases, just to get it taken care of. And an example would be maybe like water is maybe not something to you that you really care about where it's sourced. You just want to make sure you have some bottled water in your vehicle at all times. Like, that's one of the things that I do. I always have a case of water in my car. And I actually prefer the cheap Kroger brand water because it tastes better to me. But some people, like, it gives them a status to be able to just, like, they only drink the core bottled water, or the what is that square bottled water? I don't even like that. That
Fiji?
tastes like
Are you thinking of
Fiji. Yeah,
water?
some people
Yeah.
like the only Fiji water. And they are willing, like, they don't look at what the price tag says when they go into the store. They are so picky about their water, they're just going to pay for it. Versus me, like, I'm not that picky about my water. Now, if they have like the core water on sale, like, I will generally buy that because I do like that water over the Kroger brand. But in most cases, I'm just getting the store brand. However, when I go to the store, we're really starting to pay more attention to the labels on food, like even more critical than we were. And we will go to the store and it is so pitiful, y'all, like how empty our grocery cart is. And it's $120. It's so pitiful. But I don't mind that because I value what I put into my body, because I know when I do it consistently, I feel so much better. I'm much more alert. I have so much more clarity, and it is worth it for me to just pay whatever. Like, we just grab what we want off the shelves, out of the produce section, whatever it is, and we pay for whatever it is. Like, I don't care what the price of organic is. I'm going to buy organic over the other stuff that's non-organic. It doesn't matter what the price is. And it's because I value those things. I'm not price conscious about those like I am my water. And so you got to be clear about the business and the things that you offer. What kind of people would value this rather than just care about the price of it? And one of the things that I want you to think about is that when you are competing on price, you are chasing the people that you serve. When you are competing on value, you are attracting the people that you want to serve. So it's a very subtle but very important difference in understanding like who are you attracting? And so when Courtney was talking to these clients earlier this week, and they had this hard data to support the fact that they were underpriced. Like they went through, did the pricing calculator, got all of the data together about the cost to deliver these services to these people, and they were underpriced. And they're trying to make up for it in volume. And that, again, that is a race to the bottom. It hurts your business because you have to, as the owner, especially in a business, that means that you have to be tied more to the revenue generation till you get to a point where you can afford to hire people, which means when you are pricing based at the bare minimum, you have to do more output, which means you have less time just to have the same result. And I have a thing back here, like, I don't know if you, yeah, you can see it. It's like reverse. Well, it might not be reversed. I can't remember. It's not. So I wanted to show you all like a physical example of what this looks like in your business. And so this is, I don't even have copper colored markers. So these are supposed to be pennies. And they're green because green is equated to gross. And so we don't want a bunch of pennies. And so that was just like the correlation I made. But anyways, so if you want to have a lot of people, like when you're competing on price, you're just stacking up pennies. You're just, and what if this is that this ends up weighing a lot more. You have so much more volume here and it's worth less by volume because you're just stacking up like the bare minimum, like the cheapest of the cheap. Right. And so if you are pursuing people that, and this isn't bad, this isn't saying anything bad about people. You have clients right now that would pay you more than what they're paying you. You just don't charge that. But this is a lot of people that they're trying to take care of all of these clients at this low price point. And what happens is that you stretch yourself too thin, and then you need to hire people to be able to take care of all these clients, but you can't afford to do it. And so your growth overall is capped because you can't carry this load by yourself or with the capacity that you have. And you're pricing your business, you're pricing out your services and your products based off of what it costs you and then marking that up a little bit. Versus when you are able to be more clear on what makes you different, what are the values of the people that you want to attract. And there's so much stuff with branding. Like, I'm not going to claim to be an expert there. I just see the importance of it. But say these are quarters over here, and we have 10 quarters, and they're worth $2.50 if you have 10 quarters, right? You have a fourth of the volume as you do these pennies, and you have 6.5 times the value when you are focused on value rather than the price. And this is what most people are doing in their businesses. And then they're wondering, like, why can't I grow? And this is why, like, you are at max capacity with where you're at. And so you have to change something. What's the definition of insanity? Like doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You cannot continue to charge the same price and just bring on more people and expect that you're going to grow. You're growing scared. You're going to put yourself in a position where it's not even a bottleneck. It's just a blockage in your business because you won't raise your prices. And so the only way to be able to grow past this point is to increase your prices or decrease your cost. And guys, businesses, like, you're not going to eliminate your costs. You can cut them sometimes, and there is a value of going through that process of evaluating your costs. And that's why one of the things that we do twice a year is this vendor and expense analysis, so you can have clarity on these things, on your costs. But in the big scheme of things, you're going to have a base level of cost that you can't avoid to be able to operate your business and be able to provide what you want to provide for people. And so the biggest thing that really limits people is their pricing. And so one of the things that, just if we dig even further into this, if you know that this is you, or it's like, yeah, but, or whatever the case may be, I want you to ask yourself, why do I not feel comfortable raising my prices? If that is you, and that was this circumstance earlier this week, like one of the partners didn't want to raise their prices. And when that happens, I want you to ask yourself, if I know that my costs are where they need to be and they're controlled and we're not just spending excessive amounts of money and our cash flow is not hemorrhaging, and I know that I need to raise my prices, why am I not raising my prices? And that almost always comes back to some kind of mindset problem, that we're capping our own growth because we're afraid that somebody's going to leave. We're afraid that somebody's going to get mad. And the thing is that if you have to like significantly change your pricing structure with the clients and customers that you currently have, people are going to leave. But you're going to have a lot of people that don't, because when you raise your prices, you're not just going to raise prices, you're going to articulate more value. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind that we've seen with several different clients is, especially in the med spa industry, and I think this is something similar that could apply to chiropractic clinics because it's similar, but a lot of people will use Groupons and use those, and we like to, we heavily discourage those because the type of people that are using Groupons they're not coming to your location for an adjustment or a treatment service because of the value or the results. They're coming to you because of the price. And it kind of goes to, you can start to dig into, what does your client retention look like? If your client retention is pretty low, that could be another indicator that your prices are too low because you have too many people who are price hopping. If they came to you because of price, they're going to leave you because of price, and that's something we dig into, especially if someone is utilizing Groupon. We dig into, okay, the reason we want people to come to you and to stay with you is because of the value you give and because of the results that you give, and that can apply to a myriad of businesses. But yeah, Groupon is that's kind of one big example of
Yeah, I think
people
they're actually
coming to
going
you for the wrong
bankrupt.
reason. Yeah.
But that's a great example. And I think some people will leverage Groupon when they're starting out their business, but I would so much but you know what? Let me back up a little bit. That could be a good strategy for your business. If, again, going back to, this isn't to harp on anybody for doing that, but if that is your intention, is to attract people based off of your pricing, that's one thing. But if you want to have a business where you don't have to have a bunch of volume, you can achieve, if you can achieve, say, for example, $50,000 in profit in your business with 50 clients, instead of having to have 100 clients at 50,000, don't you think that would bring you a lot more peace of mind? I mean, you just by hearing that, I can, that's going to have more operational complexity serving 100 versus 50 and being able to make the same amount of profit. And the one over here, and what's really misleading for people, especially when they are judging their growth and their performance of their business based off of revenues, is that, I have so many, we have a great client that is in a service industry that cut out a business segment last year, has less revenues than she did last year, and has more than, when we checked this back in July, she had 38% more profit than she did when she had more revenue. And this is the value of, I mean, you can just equate that back to your life. If you can serve that a higher quality of client in less time and make more money, that's what you want, right? And so what is going to give you that confidence to be able to price in a way where you can really focus on the value? And this is where, when we reverse back and I asked you that question, if you don't feel comfortable raising your prices, or you need to change your pricing structure to where there's profitability baked in different ways. Maybe it's not just a straight up increase, but maybe it's converting from unit-based services to packaged services only, for instance. And so you're not going to necessarily raise the price of one service. You just bundle things together where it's like they get this and this is it, because we know that when they go through this experience and this package, they're going to have 10x the results, and we're not willing to compromise their ability to experience that transformation for a cheaper price. And so there's different ways to look at doing this. And so That's from like a strategy and a tactical side, but I really want people to get clear because I realize this about a lot of people is that when you're looking at competition or what somebody else is doing or what somebody that's an industry guru but really doesn't know your numbers tells you how to price out what you're doing, um, your confidence is not, yeah, exactly. Like you need to be looking at your prices every year, but I want you to be looking at how are you messaging, like how are you telling other people about who you are and what you offer. And that is really like when you are so solid in your positioning, in your messaging, in the transformation that you offer people, not what you do, um that gives you the confidence and the certainty to charge the prices that you do. And why this is so important too, this is so important for so many reasons, but I hate when business owners can't truly show up like fully immersed in the experience of their clients and customers or leading their team fully because they're so worried about this looming just weight of the financial woes of business, knowing that I'm not going to achieve my goals until I hit this, like, we're not going to be able to do this until we hit this crazy amount of volume to be able to experience, like, and be able to pay off debt, to be able to expand my business, to be able to hire somebody, to be able to invest in new equipment, stuff like that. Oh, go ahead, Courtney.
Sorry, I just have so many
No,
thoughts.
jump in here.
Just, it's such a hot topic for us and a lot of our clients. But one thing that comes to mind is I've been seeing a lot of social media people in the medical spa industry start talking about how alley points for Botox in particular, how that whole reward system is changing and Botox prices are increasing. And so this is just one example, but it brings up the point of, if you're having a hard time increasing your prices, you got to kind of step back and think, okay, well, we've seen in the world as a whole that, food prices have increased, house prices have increased, gas prices increase and come down. And so it needs to be the same within your business because what you're paying for your supplies, your inventory, your even your office expenses, your utility expenses, you're going to hopefully be giving raises to your employees. Those prices are going to continue to increase. And if you want to continue having the same profit, we need to increase your ability to earn more revenue. And that's increasing what you're charging, and the physical example right now of this rewards program for Botox and with the alley points, that's one example, tangible for the med spa industry right now of, okay, if now I'm not getting as great of a refund, vendor rebate from this, and it's costing me more, well, I need to make up for that by increasing my price on this. And if people have pushback, you can say, well, it actually cost me more now because of this. I'm not just increasing, that could be one way to kind
Yeah.
of start to work around that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about price increases, like your vendors, these big corporations that you have to buy certain things from, like your consumables, if you if you sell retail products, the manufacturers of the products that you resell, they're not going to ask you like, hey, can I raise my prices or do you want to re-up? Like they're going to increase them and then you're going to either continue to buy from them or you're not. But the thing is that sometimes they don't even make you aware of this. Like electric companies, sometimes they do, but sometimes they raise their prices on the cost of electricity and you don't notice it because it's so incremental. And then you get a year down the road and you're like, I feel like this electric bill is higher than it has ever been because it is. But it happens so incrementally over the course of time and they designed it that way. You didn't pay attention, which again, going back to why we go through this vendor and expense analysis, for instance, and we encourage you to do this with your personal finances as well. But if you're not keeping tabs on that stuff in your business, these people are raising your prices for you to be able to do business. They're not asking you, it's just a requirement. Like that is the status quo. And so when you do the same thing with your business, you're not asking people if they're going to still pay. You're going to do it and you're going to you're going to lose some people and it's fine. But what you do is you create space for more valuable people that to come into your ecosystem now. And one of the things, like, oh my gosh, I want you to think about if we are scared of losing people because of the price that we charge, think about who is not working with you because they think your prices are too low. And they perceive that as a correlation to the quality of what they would get because there's no way they can get what they want at such a low price point. And so they're not even going to work with you because they just look at how you're priced and the way that you message about what you do, where it's like, this doesn't make me like just yearn for that. I'm going to go somewhere where I'm going to find that. I mean, think about going to a hotel to get a facial or a massage. You're gonna pay like 3 times the amount than you would some of these smaller like boutique med spas where that's all they do. But people want the experience of saying that they went to the Four Seasons and got a spa day because of just the status that goes with that. And so they're not paying for it based off of what, because then it's going to be expensive. Like it's outrageous. I know what it costs for those people to offer those services, and it is not what they charging by a long shot. And so that's something else to think about when it comes to that. And so, if pricing is going to be something that you're always going to want to revisit this. And I had some examples on here. One, I want to go through an example with you all that I went through yesterday, and I made this when I was working on the podcast. And I want you to listen to the change in messaging when you're focused on features and benefits, which doesn't really convey any kind of value to people, versus the transformation. So when you're focused on features and benefits, you're telling people what you do. When you're focused on messaging around how you change other people, like around the transformation, they're able to see how their life is changed. And so it not only shifts it from being about you to about them, but it allows you to have more certainty and confidence in why you're charging what you do and attracting these clients. And so I want to give you an example that I made. Like, say this is a chiropractic practice, right? And so this is going to be an example of if they're focusing on features and benefits. And then I'm going to contrast this with when they're focused on the transformation. So our chiropractic service, our word salad again today. Our chiropractic service offers spinal adjustments to alleviate back pain, improve mobility, and enhance overall health. There is nothing about that is going to make you stick out like a sore thumb in the best way in a field of chiropractors where there's 10 in one city. There's nothing that somebody's going to be like, oh, I want to go to them. Every chiropractor is going to do that, right? And so this is a way where you do the same thing, but we're focused on the transformation. So imagine waking up every morning without the pain that's holding you back, free to move, free to play with your kids, and free to enjoy your life again. Our chiropractic care isn't just about temporary relief. It's about transforming your body so you feel your best every single day. Like the whole energy around that and the words and the messaging around that, both businesses are fundamentally going to be doing the same thing. But the one that speaks to how people's lives are going to be changed as a result of that is going to attract more people that really value long lasting change. And so you're going to retain those clients longer, because we all know that you don't get results from something just one time from buying it. You have to stay immersed into that thing, right? And then also with that, they're going to be able to charge a premium price because they are so certain about what they do that really changes people's lives, that they don't just selling a piecemeal service, right? And so like this company that changes the way that people feel holistically for the long-term gain rather than a short-term relief. Because anytime you have short-term gain, there's almost always still going to continue to be long-term pain. But when you have that short-term pain of maybe this is a bigger investment up front, but after you go through this process for a year, you're going to be so well tuned that it's just going to be simple maintenance every so often after that, that in the big scheme of things, the value of that investment is going to be 10 times more than the cheap price that somebody paid just to go in and get a simple adjustment. And that's the difference. And so you got to think about in your business, like what are ways that we want to add value. And what I love about this, when you realize like we got to raise our prices, or you just want to, like, we're not going to sit here as business owners and act like we don't want to make money. We absolutely want to make money, and we want to make it as easy as we can, right? And so I want you to think about, like, if this is you and you want to raise your prices, look at your existing business and it's like, what can we refine? You don't have to add a bunch of stuff to what you're doing. most of the time people can enhance what they already are offering, but message and position it in a different way where more people become interested in it. And then you didn't have to change anything except for your messaging. And so this goes back to when we are looking at financials for somebody, we knew with this client we kind of use as the example on here, we know that their pricing was an issue, but really that that has to go further back. Really, what's the issue is their positioning. And even with this client, I'm not really clear on it myself. I would even venture to say that they need to go one step further back and get really clear on the vision that they have for this business. Because if you're not clear on what your vision is, you're not going to be able to speak to what that looks like to change other people's lives. And then that just is a domino effect all the way down through there where it's like, I don't have confidence to raise my prices because I don't see how I'm any different than anybody else. And that's the problem. And so when we're looking at this data, we know like, okay, they need to raise their prices, but they need to rewind a little bit. That's the one domino they need to focus on, is articulating their purpose. But one of the things with that is that if you're in a space where you cannot even like think about taking the time to do that because you're in such a place with just volume and the operations of your business and it's hectic, sometimes we need to focus on the money part first. Sometimes we need to go through and cut some stuff out temporarily to give you some breathing room. Sometimes you're just going to have to take the dive and increase your pricing and not really be certain about how you're going to continue to convey this value so that you can get some breathing room. Maybe you lose a few clients, but in the short term, you're going to be more profitable. But what you're going to do is you're going to free up, you're going to relieve some of that pressure off of yourself so that you can slow down to effectively speed up. And so maybe the first thing we focus on is not your positioning and getting clear on what the purpose of your business is. Maybe we need to focus on, this is the tangible evidence that you have to raise your prices. I don't need you to question it. I just need you to move. Because the people that are the most successful are the people that are taking action and they just move fast. And then the people that aren't successful are the ones that are still stuck back here analyzing it. And I think I actually saw a quote on this morning. The people that are most successful, they've already made 3 mistakes and figured it out by the time the first person is still analyzing it. And so you can't question these things. You just got to find like, what's the one thing that's going to take this pressure off me right now so I can get clarity in my business to really like, how are we going to 10x the profitability of this thing and really take off without having to sell a bunch of people that in the long run are not going to be beneficial for us. And there's a host of issues that come along with that too. If you sell and you are offering what you have to a lot of people that are really misaligned, it is inevitable that a higher proportion of those misaligned clients are going to have a bad experience with your company, because when they start to get to a point where it's like, okay, we got them in here for an incentive deal and the price was this amount, but after they were a recurring client, the price goes back up. Well, they're going to claim that something they didn't like so that they can justify leaving for the price. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about how, this becomes, I think, a hard thing to do when you have faces to people and relationships with the people who you, in your mind, either know or you think that you're going to price them out by raising your prices. And that, it's hard to kind of move that when you feel like you have these friendships with people. And what's interesting is that I think about my husband's in the insurance business, and he sells, a couple different lines of insurance. But what's been interesting is the people that come to him who are very price driven and price focused, and that is all they care about. Those are the clients that, as you were saying, they're never satisfied. They're always calling with issues over and over, and they always seem to be the ones that complain the most. And the people who come into, whatever insurance they're looking at, looking based on what is the value that I'm going to get? What are the services that I'm going to receive from this insurance? Those people are more satisfied because they went into it knowing, okay, this is what I want to get out of it. And whatever that costs is what it costs, but they want X result. and that can be applied to all businesses and services.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, what it made me think of when you were saying that is that some people feel good spending more money. Like some people just like to spend money
Mhm.
on whatever it is. Like they are so much more about quality, and just it makes them feel like, and you rob people of that if that's what you want to offer, but you're not doing it because you're afraid of the people that won't like that. But that really is a source of joy for some people, is to be able to spend money like that. Just like giving away money is a source of joy. It's very like the emotion is very similar. Like people want to be able to do that, and they want to do it knowing that they're going to get something of value, where it's like it's not just this is what it is. Like if it's one thing where if you know you want to be like um a Walmart or a Dollar General or something, that is so fine. But if you're in this ecosystem with Progress, like that's not who you're wanting to be. And we know that. And I just think about just how much people actually want that. And with technology age, there's so much stuff I feel like I could break down with this, but this topic in and of itself. But we're in an age where, and there's actually a term for the um, age that we're in. So technology has allowed in so many ways our lives to be simpler, and we're not doing a lot of, I mean, look at just even like look at an air fryer, and those things have revolutionized the kitchen. Like I if I just had an air fryer and a sink, like, and a dishwasher and a fridge, an air fryer, I don't need an oven anymore. I don't need a stove. Like we rarely use those things because it is complete, it gives us back our time. We still get really great food out of it, and we can get like fried food that's healthy essentially. And why I say that is that having an air fryer, I'm not somebody that, I love great food. I don't love to cook. Like that is not something that brings me joy. So it has saved me so much time that I can spend doing things that I enjoy, things that move the needle for me. I spend more time with my family as a result of not having to cook as much because we have this tool. It is the same thing with so much technology in our businesses and just in our lives as a whole. I mean, look at our phones. And the reason I bring this up is that technology has been so great in so many ways, but it's also been horrible in so many ways. Because, and like if we look at the phone, for instance, it hurts so many relationships with people, because so many people are, I mean, go think about going to restaurants and the couples you see sitting on their phones eating out. Baffles me, but it's true. And then they wonder like why divorce rates continue to go up. Like a lot of people blame it on money, but it goes so much deeper than that. And so I just think about like all these ways that technology has been great, but it's also really hurt the ability to build just high quality relationships. But there's people that get that these days, and I wish I could, if I can find the term, then I'll share it with you all. But they're actually calling this like the relationship age, because so many people are starting to understand that like I'm depressed, anxiety is like through the roof, and then there's all these other health issues, obesity is absolutely insane. And so if we look at like why is this stuff happening, so much of it is related to lethargy and for people just being stationary and not interacting with other people. And so there's people that want to pay just to be in a room with people. They want to pay for community because they want that sense of like collective relationship. And so the reason I say that is that it is really simple to be able to price yourself a little bit more so that you can build in a sense of community. Because one of the things that I see a lot of times too with businesses, that when you are not priced for profit, when you're not priced to have margin in both your time and your bank account, then you have to churn through all of these clients just to be able to achieve the same result. And when you do that, you can't afford to spend time with people the way that you want to. Like I was so blessed, like last week, I think it was, or the week before that, I had a meeting with a client that was supposed to be 30 minutes. We were on there for an hour and a half. And I just really got to like dig into her life and more about what's going on with her, because that stuff affects the business just as much. But if we were just focused on like all we provide is accounting and tax services, and we were pricing ourselves based on that's the only thing that we offered, we would miss out on so many opportunities to have great people like that in our ecosystem. And so we're able to bake that in there because of what we do. And you can do that the same thing. Like if we look at a med spa or a chiropractor, if you're providing like person to person services, but even with like retail products, there's a boutique here in town that it kind of drives me nuts because like if I had a boutique, I would be so crazy. Like think about Chick-fil-A. When you go into Chick-fil-A, like they greet you. You know what you're gonna get when you go there. You know you're gonna be respected. You know that you're gonna feel better when you leave there if you felt like heck before then. And so I look at this boutique that I went in and I go in there and I'm looking around, they ask the same thing. Like, hey, you looking for anything particular? I'm like, no, just looking. Instead, why doesn't somebody like get up and come over and make me feel like I'm the only person in that store? I guarantee you I'd find something to buy. If they ask me like, hey, are you shopping for fall? Or this would look great on you based on your colors or something like that. Watch your conversions go up just because you spent a little bit more time with somebody. And I guarantee you, if you have a business that's a product-based business, a retail business like this, and you have those kind of systems baked in there and that training of the type of people that you have on your team serving your clients and customers, they are going to come in there and buy pants and a shirt or jewelry, whatever it is, and they're going to pay more than somebody they know down the street that has the same exact thing, probably 25% cheaper on the regular, but you love how when you go into this place, you come out being a better person because of the way that they made you feel when you go in there shopping for clothes. You can do that with retail products, you can do it with services, everything. And so wherever can you bake in a little bit more relationship building opportunities with your clients because that makes them sticky. And they will come back and you can charge the prices that make you feel good, that make you want to go above and beyond for your clients. And so that's just like something to think about. Like I mean, you go it when you're a business owner. I don't know about you all. I feel like I go into like every business and I'm like, I would do this different or I would do that different or blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, again, it really comes back to what is the vision for your business, and once you're clear on that, who are the type of people that you really want to attract because that affects everything after that. It affects the products that you're going to offer, the services you're going to offer. It affects how you're going to price those things. It affects the processes that you have where you're creating an ecosystem, not an assembly line of churning people in and out of there. It affects just the overall space that you operate out of, like everything. And so you got to get clear on that stuff if you're not confident in your prices. And if you know, like, I feel like I'm in the same place I was this time last year, I have more revenues, same profit, or even less, because we keep trying to get more customers. And when it comes to like ads and things like that, again, if you are generating ads out there and you're putting ads out there that are like giving out discounts and stuff like that, you're setting yourself up for a position where it's like you're always going to have to spend a bunch of money on ads to get the same level of clients and revenue. Because like Courtney mentioned earlier, you're going to churn through people that they're going to come in for that one deal and they're not going to come back. Or they might come back, but as soon as something changes significantly, they're a goner. They're a goner. They're going to be looking for a deal somewhere else. And so I want you to think about that. And here's some brands that I looked up 10 brands on here. And these are companies that focus more on an experience and a brand and a transformation that they provide. So Apple was an example of that. I don't even know like how much the new phone is. I know that there's a bunch of people that already have it, and the way that they allow you to buy that thing with a lot of these phone plans anymore, you don't have to pay for it up front. People don't care. They want the newest and the best because Apple, they're not the cheapest product on the market. They likely never will be, but they are consistently ranked the best in terms of user experience, prestige, and then the way that they integrate the ecosystem of all of their products together so seamlessly. And so people will just continue to buy from them, and it's more expensive. I can go get I was looking at like a Surface laptop the other day, and I was looking at a MacBook that was about equivalent in terms of just size and stuff. It seemed like it was almost double the price of that. And the only reason I decided that I'm not going to get a Mac is because it doesn't work with one of the apps that we use to communicate with our clients. So, I mean, I'll save $800 kind of, but other than that, like I wanted a Mac so bad, it's just not practical for what we do. Another one is Tesla. Now, I'm reading Elon Musk's biography right now, so like this really hits home, but he focuses on that company as a whole. They focus on creating a high-end electric vehicle, and it's priced based on the ability to continue to innovate, sustainability, and then there's just like it's a luxurious feel to electric vehicles as opposed to some of these cheaper ones where it's like it's all about saving money on gas and it's about being sustainable. Like they bake luxury in with that, and so they are able to command a higher price point for that, and it's an insanely valuable company. I think it I could be wrong, but I want to think it's worth like $1 trillion now. I could be wrong, or
Yeah.
maybe that's like Elon Musk's wealth as a whole, but I'd have to look that up. But something else to think about, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Coach isn't like as high up there as they are, but like those companies, you can go and find information on how much it costs for them to make their goods. They got a lot of profit margin baked in there. Now they do use higher quality materials and they're sourced differently. Some of them focus on sourcing sustainably as well. And some of them, like a lot of clothing brands, products and things like that, especially here in America. A lot of people will promote that they're based in America sometimes and that they source the products and they're made here. And that's really important as part of a brand for people because there's a lot of people that will willingly pay more for USA made products as opposed to something that is outsourced, right? And so, but even like with brands like Louis Vuitton, like I would need to find it, and I couldn't find it in time. But there's data out there that shows how much their profit margins are. It is insane. And the reason why is because it's such an old brand. There's an exclusive component to it, and it really goes back to like status. Like, how does it make people be perceived out in the world when they have a Louis Vuitton? Like, if you see a woman with a Louis Vuitton, then you probably and like you see her at first and she doesn't have it, and then you see her again, like you're gonna probably think like she's probably a wealthy woman or something. That's usually one of the things I think about. Usually I think like when I see that, like she's a business owner. Is usually one of the things that I think about. Rolex is very similar to that. Lululemon, athleisure, like that stuff. Gosh, I used to work in a department store and Kohl's years ago, and I remember I think it was like a JLo line of clothes that came out at that point in time, and there was like a shirt, and I remember looking at the retail price, and I'm like, there is no way. I mean, it just felt so like not high quality to me, and I was like 18 at the time. What did I even know then? Um, yeah, yeah, that's insane. 69% gross profit. But I remember asking them like how much, I don't even know how we got in the conversation, but they told me that the cost for that one piece of clothing was like less than $2. I think it was like $1.70. And the retail price of this item was $30. They had marked it up that much, but it's a well-known established chain of department stores that sells, I don't even know how really to describe them. I think their quality has really gone down in the last few years, but Kohl's kind of catered to like the kind of elevated middle class, maybe. I'm not even really sure how to describe it, but I just thought that that was so fascinating because if you look at like these boutiques in a lot of small towns, like we have a ton where I live, something that costs $50, their cost was probably $20 to $25. And so they're only marking it up 2 times as opposed to Kohl's that's marking it up. I don't know what the multiple of that is, like 10 times the amount, essentially. And it's because of the branding around it. Like a smaller, locally owned boutique that just started up is not going to have that brand authority and that messaging and that positioning really dialed in probably a lot yet, depending on how they started up. So they're not able to command prices that have those kind of profit margins. Another one to think about is like Patagonia, Peloton. They sell a community and real life competition. It's interactive, like it's immersive. Like you feel like you've stepped into a completely other planet when you're on a Peloton. And so, like, just thinking about these things, like, it is absolutely possible. There's kind of I think there's a dynamic here of time in the market. And then there's also that combination of your messaging that's going to attract the right people. But I do believe that we truly are like in this relationship age where people will pay more if they know that they're going to get this unparalleled experience and this just relationship component, no matter what you offer. And so if you know you need to raise your prices because you went through your financials and then I want you to get really sound on like, what is it that I'm not certain about and what we offer, and then fix that. It's really simple. it goes back to your messaging at the end of the day. And what I really love about going through and focusing on like all of these little components, how does it lend to a transformation instead of just conveying the feature? When you get clear on that, what's really cool is that it helps you to redesign your existing processes and offers and the things that you sell. And so it's such a cool thing. And this is why we want you to build an ecosystem, not an assembly line, because all of this stuff feeds off of one another. So I don't know, my throat's like starting to get hoarse from all this talking. It was like nonstop, but this is just something I hate seeing people like run themselves into the ground because they're afraid to raise their prices. And like what you were saying, Courtney, there are it is hard to when you know you need to raise prices and there's people that you are working with, clients or customers that you're working with, and you know, like, or you don't know, a lot of times you just assume. But you just feel like this isn't going to be affordable for them. I mean, you have options there. Either you're just going to have to bite the bullet and this is business. And the thing is like, if it was easy, well, they say everybody be doing it. You gotta not take the easy road sometimes, but sometimes maybe you can just grandfather those people in like, hey, we're doing this, but because you've been such a loyal client and customer of ours, and we really appreciate your business and all you've done to support us, we're going to grandfather you in for the next 12 months at this rate. And you can get all your products and services for this amount. There's very tactical ways to do this that have a humane element to it, and people are going to understand way more than you think. And I'll when it comes to just raising prices or anything that comes with money, one of the things I watched last night, really fascinating interview, but the guy was talking about when, I wish I could remember how he said it, when you think something about somebody else, it's really what you think about yourself or how you think about things and people in the world. So be very mindful not to project your lack of certainty or insecurities on other people. Most people that you're working with are going to be much more accepting of you than you realize. So it's going to be fine. Just raise your prices and be profitable.
I think like my last note is I would just challenge everyone to just test it out, with see what happens when you raise your prices. And if all of a sudden everybody wants to leave, then reevaluate and bring some things back down, but raise them and see what happens,
Yeah, you can also beta test this. Like if you offer a bunch of different things, change it a lot. But I mean, when you go to raise your prices, like I'm sure a lot of people on here raise their prices often, but they're just raising them so that they can continue to cover their costs. They're not doing it to where they can 10x, and we want you to 10x. And so you can do it like on just certain things or phase it in. Whatever. This doesn't have to be like cut the pricing throat and put another one on there. So
yeah,
but yeah, that was a good
you don't need to go through a whole demolition process, incrementally test it out,
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, stat quarters, not pennies, y'all. And I think this was a good chat. I want to get the transcript from this and turn it into something else. We got content for days.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all next month.
Thanks, Brittany.